In this demonstration, we will show you how easy it is for a cloud administrator to set up a cloud using Enterprise Manager 12c. As a cloud administrator, one of the first things that I need to do is create a simplified model of my data center. A typical data center is simply way too complex for a cloud user to understand. So I must abstract all of this complexity, which is exactly what I've done here. I've grouped all my resources into two logical entities that we call zones. These entities are logical, so I could assign them however I choose. In this particular case, I've done so based on geography, but I could do it based on line of business or application platform or similar. The advantage of this logical abstraction is that a user can simply interact with the data center at the logical level with no need to worry about the underlying physicality underneath it. Now the next thing I'll need to do is go in and define some self-service policies, access control, and standards. I'm going to go to set up my cloud, and you can see here I'm on the machine sizes screen. One of the first things we see here are standard machine sizes. We have standard machine sizes that we want to promote to ensure standardization in our cloud. I see that we have a small machine configuration here and a medium-sized machine configuration here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new configuration. I'm going to call this configuration large, and I'm going to assign it 8 virtual CPUs, 16 gigs of memory, and a terabyte of storage. The next thing I need to do is decide how future reservations are going to be handled. So I'll click on Request Settings. Here I can decide, are people allowed to make future reservations? And if they are allowed, how far ahead can they make those reservations? And how long can they hold on to those particular resources? In this case, I'll just accept the standard settings. I also need to think about how the resources will be utilized by different roles. In the cloud, we'll have different roles, such as a developer and QA engineers and similar. This is where I'll get to assign their quota to one or more zones and control their level of access. Here we can see there is an association already done for the app developer, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new profile for a QA engineer. So I'm going to select the QA engineer role. I'm going to assign that to the East Coast zone. And I'm going to decide how many servers, how many virtual CPUs, and how much memory and storage that they could utilize. I could also assign additional storage here if I chose to, but I'm not going to do that right now. Additionally, I'll get to select from standard gold images to ensure standardization of the software that is actually deployed into our cloud. You can see here we have a sales order application and a database 11G template. Now I have all of the infrastructure taken care of, but what we really want to do is deploy an enterprise cloud, so it's more than just infrastructure. Now we need to address higher level artifacts such as database. I'm going to go back to my setup menu, and this time set up database within my cloud. Here we can see the database zones, very similar to what we saw for the infrastructure. These are, again, logical pools of resources. In this case, they happen to be a collection of servers and clusters that have Oracle software pre-installed. Similarly, the infrastructure, I can control the request settings, how far and how long. I can set quotas against particular types of users, and I can define service templates to be utilized by those different types of users. So I'm almost there, but the final thing I need to do is go in and set up a chargeback plan. For chargeback, Enterprise Manager allows us to create charge plans, associate those charge plans to zones, which will allow us to ensure that as the resources are provisioned in a zone, they automatically inherit that charge plan. Here you can see the chargeback screen where I could go and configure up chargeback plans. I'm going to click on Configure Charge Plan, and we can see that Enterprise Manager gives me a universal charge plan. This is a very generic charge plan consisting of metrics like CPU, memory, and storage. If I didn't want to do anything else, I could simply stick to this plan and it will apply to all of the target types. However, I can define plans that are specific target types. Now, database metrics, as an example, may be very different than the metrics of those for virtual machines and similar. We can see here for virtual machines, I've done something very, very simple. For a large machine, I've defined a flat rate of 50 cents an hour, and for a small machine, that rate is 25 cents an hour. Let's do the same for database. So we can see here that for a small database, I'm going to charge $5 an hour, and I can also see here that I can charge for any particular configuration. So for example, if a user wants to use advanced compression, I can charge for that as well. And then I can apply these plans against the various zones that I've set up and assign them to cost centers so that they can be automatically applied to the various organizations within my enterprise. In this demonstration, we quickly and efficiently transformed our IT into a cloud, and it's now ready for application developers to start deploying applications and to turn on self-service consumption. Thank you for watching.